Alrighty, what's going on, everyone? This is F-Fan Crazy, coach of the North Florida Knights, and this is my Week 1 matchup versus Sunrakasha and the Tampa Bay Sawsbucks. We'll start off the video here with a team builder. If you want to skip right to the match, I'll put the timestamp on the video, as well as in the description below. Alright, so to start off the matchup here, enemy team up at the top. Main goal this week is to set up a Suicune sweep with Calm Minds, and to cripple all of its main checks going into that sweep. Notable threats from the enemy team, we have Weavile, commonly running Choice Band, very fast physical attacker. We have Salamence, who can run a lot of different sets from Dragon Dance to a mixed set, to a pure special, or even a support set with Wish. We have Heatran, who is a very potent special attacker, fire immunity, has a lot of different options, including utility moves like Stealth Rock and Toxic and Magma Storm. We have Necrozma, who can run a lot of different sets as well. Can be physical or special. Photon Geyser switches depending on your highest stat, and also has a lot of utility moves such as Stealth Rock. Then we have Tapu Bulu, whose primary purpose is grassy terrain to combo with Heatran, or reducing Earthquake's power, as well as just being a very hard-hitting physical attacker itself. And then moving on to the defensive options on the team, we have Vaporeon, Water Immunity, which is going to be really good against Suicune, commonly a Wish Passer. We have Rotom Fan, who's a decent defensive option with Defog, or it can be run offensively, gets access to Nasty Plot. We have Mudsdale, who's a very straightforward physical wall, option getting Stealth Rock. We have the Eviolite user Dusclops, as well as Cobalion, who has a lot of utility options, has Volt Switch, for example, and Stealth Rock, and can be run physical or special. And lastly, we have Shedinja, who's probably not coming because of the sand as well. Alright, so let's talk about our actual team breakdown. So we're going to start off with this lure set, which is a Toxic Stall Excadrill. High horsepower is being run over Earthquake because of grassy terrain from Tapu Bulu, and primarily there for KOing Heatran. Sub Protect, Toxic, and Leftovers is this Toxic Stall element, primarily for Vaporeon, who gives Suicune a very hard time. Also does a good amount of work against Rotom Fan and Mudsdale and Tapu Bulu as well. We went for Sand Rush over Mold Breaker since even though Rotom has Levitate, it's also part Flying type, so it doesn't really matter. And then the speed is also nice on that for Cobalion, Weavile, and Scarf Heatrans. Alright, next thing we want to talk about here is our Suicune set. I opted for Ice Beam as both a concession to offensive Salamence, as well as so we're not completely walled by Vaporeon. I'm hoping to get to an end game where we can clean up with this. Rest allows me to beat Toxic from things like Mudsdale, Heatran, and Vaporeon. Speed is just not enough to outspeed Max Speed Necrozma, as well as Heatran and Tapu Bulu. Alright, next up we got Avalugg. 3 main goals of this thing is to wall non-Fire Blast variants of Salamence, to wall Choice Locked Weaviles who aren't low kicking, non-Swords Dance Tapu Bulus as well. This does pretty well against all of those. They all have different coverage options that can hit it, but this is not going to be probably his main defensive focus if I had to guess. And a pinch is also decent against Mudsdale as well. It's also my main hazard clear with Rapid Spin. The set's pretty standard. We went for Avalanche because of Immense and Tapu Bulu, which you don't always run. And this is just max HP, max defense, because we need to tank as much damage as possible. As you might have already guessed from our discussion earlier, we're definitely bringing Tyranitar this week. Mostly as a utility set and a special wall. Obviously this sets Sand for Excadrill. This thing absolutely dunks on Heatran and special Salamence, because we're especially defensive. Rocks are needed, so we're running them on T-Tar here, and Toxic again for Vaporeon, Mudsdale, Tapu Bulu, and even special Necrozma, who really doesn't like being status. High horsepower again being run as a concession to grassy terrain. And deals with Heatran pretty nicely. Stone Edge can hit Salamence or Rotom Fan pretty hard as well. And then the speed investment is just enough to outrun Vaporeon. Even if it's trying to speed creep me a little bit, I ran a little bit extra speed for that. Alright, next up we got Tornadus T, pretty standard set. Here's just to pivot around all over the place and revenge kill some things. Knockoff obviously is great utility. Hurricane Stab to revenge things like Tapu Bulu. U-turn, obviously we want to be able to pivot around. And Taunt is here for things like Vaporeon, especially because I'm trying to eliminate that. Although if it's running Ice Beam, it gets a little dicey, so I have to scout around for that. And then it also has additional utility against things like Heatran and Mudsdale. Last on the team here, we have a little bit of a weird Celebi set. So this is my submission for Heat of the Week if it works. This is originally going to be a more defensive set with aromatherapy for Suicune that runs rest, but I ended up having to run this set because I struggle with some of the speed tiers that they have access to with Weavile, for example. Weather Ball is the main tech this week because it's rock type under Sandstorm. It can revenge kill weakened Salamences and Weaviles. Earth Power also does a lot of damage to Heatran, especially if it's not specially defensive. This set does need a lot of chip on things, like it can do 75% to most things, but not 100%. So I'm hoping between Sandstorm and Toxic and just playing around chip the whole game, and hopefully putting Vaporeon in a tough spot to pass wishes, that I'm able to revenge kill some things with this. And that's it for the team builder for week 1. I'll go ahead and pass it on over to Future Me for the match.
Ready? Battle start.
Alrighty, so we're doing something a little bit different here. We're going to go ahead and do some post-comms. Normally I don't like doing post-comms that much, but we're going to do it for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is during the match I was basically brain dead the entire time. I was barely talking because I was in the tank. And the second reason was that about halfway through this match, Sun disconnected for a good 15 minutes and we were kind of scrambling to figure out how to continue the match. Luckily, he was able to figure it out by getting a hotspot on his phone and connecting that way, but the commentary was a little bit dead between those two things. So we're just going to go ahead and do it as post-comms. So looking right at the matchup here, right off the bat, I can say that the main thing I've considered that he was going to bring was Rotom Fan here. That he didn't bring, and he did end up bringing the Weavile instead. So that was the main thing that I saw going into this. So looking at the leads right off the bat, I really wanted to go T-Tar lead, even though it was fairly obvious because it did so well against a lot of his leads. Namely, anything but Tapu Boost it did pretty well against. Even Vaporeon, it was okay because it could get a Toxic off. That was my main consideration right there. We'll go ahead and play this a little bit here. So it does go Weavile. Alright, so right here, I realized, well, unfortunately, I can't stay in. He's super likely to have low kick because there's nothing else is going to run. I also recognize that there's a good chance he's just going to click knockoff here. So I very briefly considered staying in and clicking Stone Edge, but ultimately I decided it's not worth the risk, especially because T-Tar is just really solid against Heatran, and so I end up going. We go into Avalugg and we get knocked off, which we kind of expected, but in a way that's almost better. Next he goes into Necrozma, and I click Recover because I really wanted to keep this at high health for things like Salamence and Tapu Boost. So here, not really sure what set he is. I figure he could just be Stealth Rocks, sort of like just like a utility set here. But I know that Avalugg can't really do anything to this, so I may go ahead and switch right back in T-Tar here. And this is when I realized that things are getting kind of bad. So Dragon Dance is one of the sets that, because Necrozma has so many different sets it can run, it was really a set that I didn't put a lot of effort in trying to figure out what my plan for it was. I just didn't really think about it. The good news is that the only fighting move he gets is Brick Break, and I figure there's a good chance he's running X-Scissor for Celebi, and X-Scissor sort of covers T-Tar. So I end up just saying, you know, I'm just going to stay in here with Toxic because unless he has Brick Break, I don't think it's likely he's going to try to KO me from there. And what ends up happening is I go ahead and he DDs again, and I click Toxic, and I'm feeling pretty good, but he does have the Lumberry, and right here, it was at this time I realized I fucked up, and he goes for the Brick Break, immediately ending me. So I spent, before this switch, I probably spent a good 7 or 8 minutes trying to figure out what my actual best plan was here, and I ultimately ended up going with, I need to go Celebi here to try to get some chip damage on this thing. I figure if he has Brick Break, there's a good chance he doesn't have X Scissor. If he doesn't have X Scissor, I have enough time to Leaf Storm, and then it's very unlikely. It's a roll to kill Landorus, or sorry, it's a roll to kill Tornadus with Photon Geyser. Even at +2, it's a roll. So this is my only plan at this point because everything else gets KO'd. Avalugg gets KO'd by Photon Geyser. Suicune doesn't get KO'd, but I would pretty much have to hit a Scald Burn for it to do anything, and Suicune's my main way that I'm going to win this game, so I can't really just have it take a bunch of damage, and Excadrill just dies to Brick. So go for the Leaf Storm here, and crazily enough, we're faster, which was huge. Do a pretty good chunk of damage. He does have the X Scissor, which kind of sucks. And so I go into Torn here, and so here I'm like, well, the Torn doesn't can't knock out with knockoff because the Lumberry's gone, and it would have been a roll with the amount of bulk that he had, even if he did have an item still. Because I just looked at how much damage the Celebi did, and it did a little bit less than it would against no bulk. So I say, well, I got no options here. We're gonna go ahead and click Hurricane and hope that we live. They Photon Geysers me, I live, and I Hurricane and miss, and that was very, very unfortunate. So goes ahead, Photon Geysers me, nothing I can do about that, and I have to go into Suicune here. Suicune's the only thing I have that can damage this and not die. I Scald, and he does switch. So once he switches, I'm pretty excited because I don't think it's likely I can win here, but I would have probably taken like 80% plus on Suicune had he just stayed in with Photon Geyser again. I would have lived, but it would have put me in a really bad spot. So the fact that he switches here and he gets the Scald on the Vaporeon does not concern me too much, so I just start Calm Minding in this thing's face. He Wish passes back into Necrozma here, and I Calm Mind a second time, but by now, I'm not as worried because this thing doesn't have the setup, so I just start clicking Scalds. If I get a burn, it's great. If I don't, it's whatever. Photon Geyser doesn't do that much. I'm pretty bulky physically. Second Scald KOs. I ended up speed investing to beat this Necrozma, and I'm glad I did because, as you saw, it helped a lot for me. In last minute, adding some more speed. So here, I do a little calc here, and unfortunately, I just don't do enough to Bulu even with 2 Calm Minds to KO it. And I can't just Ice Beam it because there's no way that between Excadrill, which only has 1 attacking move, and Avalugg that I'm going to be able to take this. I need to get chip on this to be able to win. So I go ahead and go into Avalugg here. They protect, so nothing really lost here. Heatran and I make a pretty good body press prediction because it felt like there was no way he was going to stay in. Go back into Suicune on Heatran, they Magma Storm me, doesn't do almost any damage. And here, I'm debating what I want to do here, but ultimately, I decided to click Calm Mind. I did consider Ice Beaming, but I was worried if I didn't start Calm Minding, I wouldn't be able to win. I think if I had Ice Beam there, it could have been good. Go back into Avalugg. He goes to Vaporeon, which seems pretty likely. I go Excadrill here. He switches out into Bulu, which surprised me, and I get a Toxic off, which is really nice. I originally clicked Toxic because I really wanted to cripple the Vaporeon, and then I figured that Toxic, I lived a Scald from that range, so I went ahead and just made the Toxic, and I actually hit a better target in my opinion, so I start subbing in this thing's face. On this turn here, I was debating what to do. I could have protected. I could have switched to Avalugg. Ultimately, I decide to sub again because the Grassy Terrain and the leftovers are keeping my health pretty high. So I go for the sub, and he switches to Weavile, which was kind of a unexpectedly smart thing to do. So the Weavile gets in scot-free, and you know, I'm like, okay, well, the only real thing I can do is click High Horsepower here. I go for the Protect first so I can get some more Grassy Terrain and leftovers, get a little bit higher health, and then I forget that Triple Axle is going to break the sub and do some damage to me. I didn't even think of that. High Horsepower gets the Weavile down low, but because it broke my sub, now I'm not much I can do. And protecting there to get some more health on the leftovers. And then this is where the disconnect happens. So originally I was going to click Protect here to get some health, but in ultimately wouldn't matter because 60% or so wouldn't be enough to tank a Scald. So ultimately, I just decided to go for the Toxic. It's possible I could have tried going for a substitute here and seeing if Sun got a little cheeky, but they've made a safe play and just clicked ball, which was the right thing to do. I do have two things Toxic. I have Vaporeon and I have Tapu Bulu, both Toxic now. And Avalugg is in good health, and so is Suicune here. So I just need I just need to be able to finish off Weavile and Tapu Bulu. So I basically just need to get a little bit of chip on Bulu, and I think there's a chance I can win. So they switch into Weavile. If I had just clicked Scald this turn, I had a decent chance of winning, I think. Ultimately, I go for the Calm Mind there. I have to switch to Avalugg because I don't want to get my leftovers knocked off. I don't think I can win without them. They go into Salamence here. Salamence switches out after the Intimidate. I Avalanche. Get a little bit of chip against this, which is great. Again, Bulu is one of my obstacles. Need to get it low enough to be able to Ice Beam. They end up going into Vaporeon. I debate what to do here, but ultimately I just have to go directly into Suicune because there's no other option. They Scald, no burn, which is nice. I have the Grassy Terrain healing me at this point, so I end up clicking Scald. I didn't mind them getting the Water Absorb. The Scald was in case they switched into Weavile again. I click Wish. And I click Scald again because I did debate Ice Beaming, but Ice Beam did not KO the Weavile, unfortunately. So I end up just clicking the Water move instead. Dual Wing Beat doesn't do very much. This is more bulky Salamence here. And I'm switching into Avalugg because I need to keep my health a little higher on Suicune, and I didn't have any investment into any Calm Minds. Go for the Avalanche, and I'm just going to click Avalanche until it does something different. Brick breaks me down to 57%. Get the KO on the Salamence. So I'm feeling actually okay here. But unfortunately, the Weavile comes in and low kicks me. I live. I do get the body press to KO it. So that's another one down. But at this point, the Tapu Bulu is too high of a health. So after this Horn Leech gains back too much health. And Suicune, I need either a freeze or a crit here to have any chance. Ice Beam and do 39% and end up dying to the Horn Leech. So Sun basically completely won the game on turn 3 with the Dragon Dance Slumberry set. It was a really good bring. My team really didn't have that many outs to it. Like, I would have had to, if I had known for a fact he was running it, I still think I would have been hard pressed to figure out a solution to it. Like, I would have had to have had multiple Pokemon with Toxic, I think, to be able to beat it. Or I would have had to have had like a completely different type of build that revolved around not losing to it, and I just didn't give the Necrozma enough respect or time to figure out how to not lose to it. Sun tried to throw the game back to me, but despite that, despite his best efforts to lose it, he managed to pull it out. I got some differential points back, which I was pretty happy about considering how badly the start of that game went, and yeah, I gotta give it to Sun. He beat me pretty badly just in the team building portion of this, so I hope you guys enjoyed the post-comms. I'm going to try to make sure I'm doing live commentary for the majority of my matches this season. But if I feel like the commentary is suffering during the live ones because I'm concentrating too hard, we'll see how the post-comms go instead. So thanks for watching, and peace out.